Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we have our newest, strongest sword and shield. Well, that's if you use it like a normal melee. There are a couple of weird things going on with this weapon, which we of course will get into later. First, I want to explain what kind of sword and shields we have. There's only two kinds, normal hack and slash melee and gimmick DPS sword and shields. Gimmick DPS includes things like Tenet Agendus, because the heavy attack fires out an arcoplasma shot with massive stats that have infinite body punch through for 40 meters and, well, Arcane Brunt. The Argo Vel also has a gimmick. Heavy attacking launches a glaive that only homes after the first hit and can rebound twice. This glaive kinda sucks, which I will explain again later. The Argo Vel is our newest drifter melee that can be obtained from Teshin's Cave when you unlock Duviri. It costs 60 Pathos Clamps or 225 Platinum, and buying with Platinum gives you a fully crafted drifter and a Warframe weapon, whereas buying with Pathos Clamps will only give you the drifter weapon but a blueprint if you want to use it on your Warframe. Okay, so how does Argos' gimmick work? Heavy attacking launches a glaive outward with 0 homing initially. Hitting an enemy with it will make it bounce to 2 other enemies. Whenever the glaive contacts something, it produces a 3-meter AoE with some amount of fall off. It also inflicts on hit damage. The AoE has 100% damage scaling, whereas the direct hit has 200% scaling of the normal melee. This means at best, hitting enemies with the glaive has 300% scaling compared to swinging your melee. And you also have to deal with the heavy attack animation. Keep in mind, stance multipliers typically include hits that do higher than 100% scaling. The glaive AoE ignores CO completely, and the direct hit of the glaive retains only partial CO scaling, about 1/3 of how much it's supposed to, aka you need 3 status effects for the glaive to do the bonus damage it should do with 1 status effect. Elemental damage scales normally, and the projectile also cannot headshot under normal circumstances, even with Scourge's headshot aura active. The normal heavy swing is also bugged and occasionally will not hit an enemy at all, even at point blank, resulting in only the glaive projectile and AoE dealing damage. Slide heavy retains normal functionality and always lands a hit and does not produce a projectile. Therefore, I would not recommend using this to kill Demolists. For weird interactions, this weapon inflicts self-damage on heavy attack AoE, matching elements modded on. The AoE by default has a separate high chance to proc / independent of elements modded. Elements will roll their status chance as well, and you cannot inflict radiation on yourself via this method. If you mod Pure Toxin, this weapon's heavy attacks will bypass your shields and directly damage your health. I know what you're thinking, but it doesn't work. This weapon has unique self-damage coding. Unlike anything else in the game, self-damage inflicted does not activate Chroma's Vex Armor, Scorn, or Fury buff. This means you cannot gain armor or damage boost this way. Also, the self-damage does self-charge Harrow's Covenant, allowing you to stack 50% flat crit, even if no enemies are around. This is the first time we've had a weapon in the game that can stack Covenant, but cannot stack Vex Armor. Also, yes, the self-damage triggers Electric Elemental Ward, however Electric Ward is a single target ability per arc, and relies on rapid individual hits to deal damage. Therefore, while you can deal massive damage by blowing yourself up, this will only kill 1 enemy at a time and is not worth it. Therefore, we will not build for the heavy attack on this weapon because it cannot be used to stack ability synergies and can only hit 3 enemies at once before returning the glaive. In comparison, Agendus and Grigori shoot a massive truck-sized shot with the infinite body punch through. The heavy attack is not useless in Argo and does decent damage, but is not strong enough to butcher a normal build for when it can only hit 3 enemies at once and cannot headshot despite being aimable. This leaves us with a normal attack build setup. The closest competitors are Sigma Octantis and Agendus. Arcane Brunt does not come into the picture because it does not have proper condition overload scaling on its swings. Sigma is the top tier / sword and shield, however Argo has slightly higher crits and most notably significantly higher status chance with higher / weight as well. 80% to 62%. It also has base 300 damage, meaning even though it only has 0.8 base attack speed compared to Sigma's 1.08, this is easily overcome by the much higher raw damage and significantly better slashing capabilities. 1 extra attack speed source will be required for Argo to feel good to use though. compared to Agendis, which uses 400 innate damage with a 60% progenitor, and free innate elements. The important thing to note is Agendis has no slash weight by default. Agendis has much higher raw damage and slightly weaker crits, but still consistently surpasses 100%, while also having higher attack speed. The save mod slot due to the progenitor also further damage scaling and results in Agendis being superior to Argo for raw corrosive builds. But for slash setups, Agendis' raw damage cannot compete due to lack of slash outside of stance procs, which are few. This means Argo is our de facto new best slash DPS sword and shield and easily scales into endurance, assuming condition overload. How good is it? It reaches 90 to 100 kpm at base steel path, with no ability or buffs, which is in line with other meta melee such as Cronin Prime. Of course, Glaives and Contagion still sit up top, but this is one of the best hack and slash melees currently available. For raw damage corrosive builds, Argo is strong enough with a primer base steel path to not need slash, but it's still inferior to Agendis. Finally, how good are sword and shields in general? Final Harbinger is one of the best stances in the game, boasting good stance multipliers on weapons with already good raw stats. While not as high as the likes of Sovra and Outcast on Tonfa's, Votive Onslaught for war fans, or Quaking Touch from Fists, Final Harbinger is only about 10 to 15% worse on overall multipliers. More famously, it has amazing hitboxes and mobility, allowing you to cover an incredible amount of area and hitting many enemies at once. Other stance combos besides neutral melee also have incredible reach and horizontal hitboxes while feeling smooth and alive. Despite lower multipliers, this leads to sword and shields in general feeling good to use for most people. Argo Vel just takes this to the next level. Does it surpass Cronin? I don't really think so, but it's good enough to match it. For builds, it's very simple. We only got the slash DPS endurance builds and corrosive builds today. I can also showcase a heavy attack projectile build, but it really doesn't work well, and you're free to fiddle with it if you want to try something. Slash DPS comes first. Do keep in mind all builds today are done with a primer, not only because it results in better DPS and also KPM, but Argo has zero puncture, meaning a non-primer build would have one less status effect than usual, making Argo abnormally weak for a condition overload solo build, due to missing one of the 4 status effects a viral slash melee would normally have. This results in only 340% base damage scaling and instead of 420%, or losing 19% of your total damage instantly. For your primer, take anything you like and bring secondary encumber if you can for extra status procs. Otherwise, dexterity arcanes help to extend combo duration of your melee. Take Naramon Focus School too if you wish for the combo duration decay bonus. As I mentioned, Argo Vel is very slow with base 0.8 attack speed on its archetype. You have two options, either slot Primed Fury with Arcane Strike on your Warframe, or drop Gladiator Might to run Quickening as well. Alternatively, if you're playing Survival, you do have the option to drop a Primed Fury for Berserker Fury alone. Do keep in mind this is only plus 70% attack speed, and you will feel a difference on Argo being slower compared to the other methods I've mentioned so far. Gladiator Might is important because slotting this alongside Blood Rush boosts Argo to 208% crit chance at 12 times combo to guarantee at least oranges. Without Gladiator Might, you dip below 200 and have the occasional yellow causing damage inconsistency. Weeping Wounds maintain status to 129.6% at 12 times combo for all the slash procs we need. Prime Reach helps to wide horizontal weeps benefit much more since it will reach both in front and the side, whereas the Prime Smite double dips bleeds for 2.4 times more damage. If you go a raw Corrosive build, remember that I said primers are mandatory for this weapon. Corrosive Argo forgoes 2 mod slots to slot elementals. Weeping Wounds is not as important since your goal is to kill in 1 to 2 swings on base steel path. This build is unsuitable for endurance. Corrosive procs are not too important outside of Xmas or elite units, which you can still stack at a decent rate with 24% status and 72% corrosive weight. We also give up Gladiator Might since it is the only mod we can afford to drop. Alternatively, you can drop the Prime Smite since it only single dips on raw Corrosive builds for plus 55% more final damage, but do keep in mind this is a bigger damage loss than Gladiator Might. Range is important as always due to the semicircle hitboxes of Final Harbinger, and of course, crit damage. Raw Corrosive build is strongly recommended to be used with Arcane Strike since you do not have a free slot on the build to drop, like Gladiator might on the Slash setup. Alternatively, you could drop the Prime Smite for a second attack speed mod, but this is a massive DPS loss, over 1/3 of your damage going missing, and I would rather recommend considering dropping Prime Fury for Berserker Fury or using a frame with attack speed buffs. And that's Argo Vel, our newest sword and shield that fashions amazingly while remaining stylish. A somewhat functional gimmick that's usable but not really worth building around. If you want to mess with the heavy glaive, this is my template build I was testing. It does in fact do enough damage to kill, however it can only kill 3 enemies at once. The AoE can work a bit better with grouping, but do keep in mind it only has roughly 3-meter AoE on bounce and also fall off, and that the actual swing of the heavy attack sometimes has hitbox problems. Raw Corrosive for 90% heavy efficiency from reflex coil and focus energy. Sack Steel and Blood Rush at 12 times combo pushes you to 313.6% crit chance for guaranteed reds on this build. Cheers. If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% if you're not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've been doing with Duviri. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. Don't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.